Senator Marielle Smith.
Thank you, Madam Acting Deputy President. My home state of South Australia should not have to endure this government's failure on climate policy any longer, because their failure is costing my state. It's costing our environment, it's costing us in terms of the River Murray, it's costing us in terms of investment, it's costing us in terms of jobs, and it is costing our children a prosperous future. Their failure on leadership, on climate change, is a failure of the highest order. And instead of readying our country to take advantage of the economic opportunities of a renewable energy revolution, they have done what they do best: stoke fear, inflame division, mislead the Australian people on what is to come. And we have seen this time and time again from the Liberals, like when the Prime Minister said that low emissions technology, like electrical vehicles, will end the weekend. And we've seen it in the Prime Minister's embarrassing performance in Glasgow. Their failures on climate change policy have robbed Australians, and they have especially robbed those Australians who have the most to lose from a changing climate. South Australians will not be taken for fools. They see it, they get it. And while people have rightfully been focused on the pandemic for the past 2 years, beyond that, the one issue raised with me more than any other is the need for urgent action on climate change. South Australians want action on climate change because they know the environmental and economic future of our state depends on national leadership, on national action. But instead, under this government, they've had 21 different energy policies under 3 Prime Ministers. Just recently, another glossy document, a pamphlet with no detail, a pamphlet. An embarrassment on the world stage, where Australia should be leading, where we are capable of leading. And rather than increasing our ambition on tackling climate change, rather than being leaders, every time we get here, they're dragged kicking and screaming. This is of the utmost importance to my state. People in my state have seen the impacts of climate change firsthand. The Black Summer fires. And we know fires, bushfires, predicted to increase in intensity and frequency. And we know that if more action isn't taken to enhance and promote renewable energy, we'll see power prices going up. South Australians, my constituents, they want to know why this federal government isn't seizing the opportunities to produce more cheap, reliable, renewable energy, why they aren't taking advantage of this revolution. By investing more in our renewable energy sector, we create jobs, we drive down power prices, we deliver South Australians a better future. And South Australians, I can tell you, they inherently understand what the coalition simply cannot grasp. Meaningful action on climate change is critical for our environmental future, but also for our economic future, for the future of our children, for their future prosperity. And their inaction, it makes me angry, and I know it makes South Australians angry, because they just can't grasp how important it is. There are huge opportunities for my state in South Australia if Australia is to lead. If Australia is to lead and deliver the jobs and the growth which we know a green energy revolution can deliver. And we see this leadership from the state opposition in my state, from Peter Malinauskas and his team, with their plans to build a 200-megawatt clean energy hydrogen power plant and storage facility. We've seen it from parts of the private sector who have driven investment in this space, not helped by the policy settings of the federal government, but more and more seeing the light, seeing the economic opportunity, taking that leadership where the federal government will not. State governments stepping up to lead on climate policy where the federal government will not, where the federal government, where the federal Liberals have just divided, ignited fear, sought to disrupt and destroy any meaningful effort to tackle climate change. And my state risks being left behind unless they get their act together. Our country risks being left behind unless they get their act together. South Australians know how urgent this is, and they want the federal government to recognise that too.